Got it. All right, we're live. Thanks, Marissa.
Good evening. Happy Friday. It is way later in July than I want to believe, but we are here. Boozy Book Broads, excited to bring you a fantastic hot summer reads party. I, for one, am delighted because we are celebrating 2 Boozy Book Broads books, as well as 2 other fabulous authors that we have brought tonight to this panel. So we're going to get started. I am Melanie Johnson, also known as the Writing Lush, and I get to play room mom for you this evening, which means that if you have questions, put them in the chat and we will try to get to them to answer all of your burning desires the best that we can and celebrate here. So we are going to be talking about different stages of publishing and what that is like for authors who are at various points in their career. But before we do that, we'd like to have a little fun because we are the Boozy Book Broads. So we're going to start with what we like to call our shots. So before we get to those shots, I want to make sure I handle all of our business. Make sure you go to lovesweetarrow.com to buy books, support indie bookstores, support these authors, buy these books. Some of them have special goodies that go with them. So make sure that you check that out on the Love Sweet Arrow website and buy some books. Once again, drop your questions in the panel, for the panel in the chat, and we'll try to get to those. All right. This evening, Angelina, what are you drinking? Seeing as you're
I'm drinking local, so local Houston beer, St. Arnold's. It's Lawnmower, so it's low alcohol. So I will stay sober for the next hour and then.
Those numbers is important because sometimes you can be taken by surprise.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
At the Boozy Book Broads, we do like to say that, whatever you're drinking works. It doesn't have to be alcoholic. Obviously, some of us do like to imbibe. Yes, I do. Pippa, are you having any beverages this evening?
I'm double fisting it. I have some sparkling hard kombucha and I have some water. And it will be doing both.
I am actually too.
That is like one of my goals is to hydrate better. And you have like one of those, like I do too, where it's like encouraging you,
yes.
Drink a lot of water.
I think yours matches more to my kids.
Yeah, like little numbers and times. It doesn't work, but I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Danielle, how about you? What you drinking?
Okay, so I'm double fisting. I've got water. I have water in my Powell's Books pint glass. It's like one of my favorite independent bookstores, and I love it. But I also, per usual, have a heavy pour of wine. It is Friday, but because it's summer, I have rosé instead of Sauvignon Blanc. So it's very exciting.
Very nice.
Delicious.
I thought of you when I used the phrase "heavy pour" in a book recently.
Every Boozy Book Broads, I have a heavy pour.
And Allie, I know you have been very busy. You're coming to us from Comic-Con in San Diego. Did you manage to grab yourself a beverage?
It's very sad beverage. So I'm staying in a hotel room, and this morning, for some reason, the alarm went off at 6 a.m. I did not put my alarm on. I have no idea what went off, but it happened, and then I wasn't able to sleep again. So I need caffeine more than anything else right now. It's my one treasure. So that's sad, but let's pretend there's like some vodka in it or something.
We will.
A little bit of little rum and Coke. We'll make that work for you. All right, so you can tell us what you're drinking in the chat as well. If it's something fancy, great. If it's just a Diet Coke, that works too. All right, so we're going to move on now to our shots. And we have talked about what we're all drinking tonight. And usually on the Boozy Book Broads, when we have like one featured guest, we'll ask them to suggest a signature drink for the evening. Since we have a fabulous group of 4 of you tonight, I wanted to ask what one of your characters would select as their signature drink. So what would they be drinking? Either it could be what they're drinking tonight, or if they had to select a featured drink, what they would come up with. So Danielle, what do you think?
Okay, so I'm gonna go. Well, so I've got her here live and in person.
Beautiful.
Cassie, in the book, she and her friends are hanging out together, and they always have rosé. So that's also why I'm drinking rosé. But I will say, kind of, Angelina, my hero, his name is Reed. He would drink like a craft beer. And so there is one of my favorite local Chicago beers or breweries is Revolution, and they have an IPA called Anti-Hero. And I'm pretty sure he drinks that in the book too. But I also forgot, it's like you write it and you read it 9 million times and you forget everything you did. So I think he drinks Anti-Hero. Someone tell me if you've read it. My mom's on. Hi, Mom. Maybe she knows.
Hi, Danielle's mom.
Hi, Danielle's mom. She's such a faithful Boozy Book Broads watcher. We love her.
Amazing.
So, when I was watching your little chat with Denise the other night, Denise Williams, you had talked about the character named Reed. I have a cousin named Reed.
Yeah.
I was like, huh. I will separate those two out.
I hope so.
Pippa, how about you? What is your character? Who's your character?
Phoebe, I'm on the road too, and I have my book in my car. I forgot to bring it out, but my new book is called The One Who Loves You, and Phoebe Lightly is a transplanted, like it's a Schitt's Creek inspired book. She's high level heiress, New York City, transplanted to a small town in Wisconsin. So she's drinking whatever will get her drunk fastest, probably just vodka shots.
Wisconsin is one of the booziest states in the country. So
yeah. And her hero, Teague, he's going to be drinking whatever he can get out of the local person, their brew beer in her garage. They call it Jane's Garage beer. So he'll be drinking whatever Jane's got on tap.
Toilet wine.
Yeah.
Allie, how about you?
Okay, so I feel like my main girl, Olive, she would probably have she would probably have some kind of novelty cocktail that is like bubble tea based or something, like something that would be like that. There is a non-alcoholic version, but like she would like spike it a little bit, something fruity and sweet and something like that. Like the guy Adam would have the most boring beer that you can buy. Not even like a cool like draft beer, like brewery stuff. No, it's just the most boring thing.
Give me a Miller Lite.
Yeah, like a Miller Lite. Yeah.
Angelina, how about you? I know you got it.
This is Pippa's new book, The One Who Loves You. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I was pulling that up real quick. So that's Pippa's book, and then I'll get Allie's book. But my book is After Hours on Milagro Street, and she is a badass bartender. She's the perfect MC to have on the Boozy Book Broads, and she's from Chicago. She's a badass bartender from Chicago, and I say that she's a celebrity bartender and that she helped to bring mezcal to the Midwest. That she was part of that movement. Again, all in my head, but the part of the movement to bring mezcal. So when she goes home to take home the family bar, one of the drinks she comes up with is called Sunset in the Barrio. And it's because the little neighborhood in Southeast Kansas she's from, she sees in an old 60s map that they used to call it the Boxcar Barrio. And it was a denigration. It was a way to make fun of the area. They called it the Boxcar Barrio, this old Mexican-American neighborhood. Well, she embraces it, calls it this beautiful mezcal drink that she adds to the menu, calls it Sunset in the Barrio. And one of my favorite scenes in the groveling end, and I'm not going to give away too much, but in the groveling end, she shows him how to make his favorite drink, which is her drink, shows him how to make it. And he's like, why are you not going to be here? And she's like, no, I just want you to feel free to make the choice you need to make. And if one of those is not being with me, I still want you to be able to get your favorite drink. So it's like, oh.
It has extra meaning. I love that. I love how much meaning is wrapped up in that. Like it's not a simple cocktail, so much meaning wrapped up in that. That's fantastic.
It's fantastic. And it also shows how important alcohol is in my life, which is maybe,
Side, it's because I'm checking your chat and we've got some people drinking here. Someone else is double fisting it, Sharon, with Makers and Coke in one hand and water in the other. I like how we're all hydrated. That's very, very responsible of all of us. Good job. Iced coffee, Pretty Can't Dance. Good job. So got a lot of people. So you can drop your what you're drinking in the chat. We're gonna move on now. This question I'm excited about because I was just like, I'm just curious to see the answer. So if you haven't watched the phenomenon that is Stranger Things, you're not caught up in it and you haven't watched, it's okay. I forgive you, but you need to go check it out. I said phenomenal cast of actors. Love this Gen Xer here, loves the 80s vibe so hard. Regardless, there is in the current season, I won't do any spoilers, but there is this element to it where a song that means a great deal to you, that is important to you, is able to save you from a dangerous situation. It's able to like pull you out of those fears and save you. So I wanted to ask our group what your song, the song that would save you, would be. And if you can't think of one, so if you, again, if you've been under a rock, you're not aware of this, but the song, Kate Bush's song, Running Up That Hill, it was out in '85 and has now broken records and been hitting it in the big time. And I can't imagine as an artist, something that you created, you know, almost 40 years ago, coming back and doing what it's doing. So I think that's thrilling. And for all of us, all of us artists here have something like that happen to us. But if you can't answer what song would bring you, you know, out of a dangerous situation, would save your life, then you could answer what song you'd like to see be a surprise hit. So I'll let you choose either of those questions. We'll start with you, Allie, this time, or you got to think for a minute.
No, actually, I mean, this is something I watched. I did watch Stranger Things. I was like, I watched it the day it dropped, and then like, you know, there was a month between the all the episodes, and then like with the last, I think it was the last 3, and then I hated the entire month, like that I didn't know what was gonna happen. Okay, so I'm gonna say as a song, Silent All These Years by Tori Amos.
Oh my gosh, yes!
It's just such a good song. And like, I also like it. So it's, I want to say Kate Bush reminds me of Tori Amos. The truth is that I know that like it's Tori Amos who like has taken so much from Kate Bush, but I kind of grew up listening to Tori Amos and not like, I didn't even know Kate Bush was a thing because I grew up in Italy, and so we like there's some music that we get and some music that we just don't really get. And I remember actually like I hearing the song. I had never heard the song "Running Up the Hill," and I was like, "Is this Tori? Like, is it sounds so similar, you know?" And my husband, who knows a lot about music, my husband was like, "You are so ignorant." and so yes.
Your answer so much because I'm a huge Tori fan, and my answer is Little Earthquakes.
I love Little Earthquakes so much. It's such a good song, and like it's so like spectral in a way.
Yes, and then So if you people are not Tori Amos fans, get on it.
No, I mean definitely like Tori is the best. My when I first joined fandom, my first fandom username was "What If I'm a Mermaid" from that song. I'm like, guys, I'm obsessed. Anyway, I love this question so much.
We're gonna move along here and make sure to drop your answers to this question in the chat as well. Pippa, how about you? What song would do it for you?
It would be Rachel Platten's Fight Song. I don't know if I could actually survive, but I would be doomed anyway. And so at least I would go out like, I have the power, and it would make me happy.
I like how you're embracing your fate.
I'm like, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out happy. This song makes me happy. I actually haven't watched Stranger Things because I get scared so easily.
That's okay. I can understand like the creep. There's like a gross out factor for me as well from the last season that took me some getting used to.
Yeah,
it's the scariest.
Yeah, Angelina, how about you?
Mine's if I'm gonna go out dancing. So mine's Nika Costa's "Everybody's Got Their Something." It's like that everyone,
That's such a good song.
Such a good song, and it's just empowering and shit. That was early Mark Ronson, and I love everything he does, and that is my hype song all the time. It was funny watching Stranger Things, and when Kate Bush came on, I was like, oh yeah, because that song's my era. I thought I was an alt chick. That song is so common that when it started being on TikTok, it didn't occur to me. And then there was like, they broke the charts for the first time. I'm like, It did? Like, I didn't know that it wasn't like a top 10 hit. But again, that was I'm old. That was my era. It was like no big deal. But yeah, that everybody's got their something. Like, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out dancing.
All right, Danielle, how about you?
Okay, so I was thinking about this, kind of taking like the perspective of like that character, like discover, like, you know, when you hear like that album or that song and it makes you just appreciate what music can do. And so I was in middle school when Jagged Little Pill came out. And so I was thinking of like, You Ought to Know.
Oh my God.
Okay, wait, I'll make this even better. I was born when the Kate Bush song like debuted. That's when I was born. But I will say, but like listening to Jagged Little Pill and especially You Ought to Know, like I was like, if I was like on the brink of something, like that is the song. Like I just remember being like, you know, in 6th or 7th grade and being like, she's so angry. And I don't even know if I totally know why she's so angry, but so am I. I'm angry, you know, like it like changed everything. So like, that's what I would listen to, I think.
I love that story.
So I'm seeing, so we've got Robin is saying Wanted, Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi. Good choice.
Awesome.
Song of Women by The Who. It's from Janelle. Cheryl Jackson, I Will Survive. The entire Achtung Baby album by U2. Okay, Susan. The whole album. All right, I have to do a cool drop. So when U2 was here in Chicago when I was in high school, and I went to go see them, I am not lying, my ticket was row U, seat 2.
Oh, I just got chills.
The I went with who bought the tickets wouldn't let me keep that ticket. He kept it.
What?
And I was so mad because he didn't even realize it until I did. I'm like, do you see this? And he was like, oh. You fool. I was a fool. I shouldn't have said anything. Anyway, so we stand U2. That was the season that he was calling President Bush on the phone every concert to yell at him. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh my God.
Also dating myself because that's when I was in high school. All right, so we're moving on. We're gonna get going here. Actually, I do have another question, but I want us to get to the full bottle. So what do you think? Save that last question for the end? Yeah, let's do that. Let's
because that's it's a good question. We should save it.
Good question to end with. All right, so I'm gonna pass it on over to my two Boozy Book Broads, Angelina and Danielle, and they're going to lead the full bottle.
Yes. Okay. So I'm starting off because I'm the newbie. My debut just happened. But I would be remiss to ask this amazing, all of you, including Melanie, like this is a question we all can answer, hopefully. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you guys for advice about surviving kind of the debut experience. So what is something that you think every debut author should be aware of or keep in mind during kind of this very tumultuous and often stressful process? So I'm going to go kind of in order on my screen. I'm going to start with Pippa.
There will be parts that are disappointing and you cannot avoid that. So lean into the parts that give you joy and know that this is just the beginning of an amazing career. And you're going to do so many good, awesome things. And so lean into the joy at every opportunity, learn what you can from the disappointments and just run. Oh my gosh, I'm getting like teary-eyed because I'm so excited for you because this is such a fun time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my advice.
I love that. I'm like writing down lean into the joy. I'm going to make a post-it. Okay, Angelina.
Don't compare your experience to anyone else's. This industry changes like lightning every 6 months. It's definitely changing that fast now. And every person's experience, even in the same publishing house, even publishing the same, vein of genre, is going to have a different experience than you. Stay off kind of messaging where it's like this big group experience and we're all going to say what the norm is. There is no norm. Try to preserve, at least right now, the next 3 months, try to preserve that time, enjoy this experience, limit the comparisons. Once you get through the debut, then you can have a conversation with your editor, then you can have a conversation with your agent about, okay, what do we do next? What do I do next? It's always keeping aware of what's happening in your industry so that you can level up when you need to. But right now, it's your experience. Enjoy that experience and don't compare it to anyone else's.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Allie.
And I'm so excited for you too. It's really amazing, Danielle.
Congrats. This is fantastic. I guess my advice is, and this is for like traditionally published authors, not so for self-pub. I'm assuming that would be a little bit different, but like, it's not like, there is nothing that you can do aside from writing a really like the book that you love that is going to influence sales. I think we all like internalize a lot whether like our book is a success or not, and we're like, oh, okay, there's something I can do. Like if I hustle more on social media, if I don't know, if I do like 1 million events, if I have a pre-order campaign, which are, I mean, all amazing things, which by the way I did, but all of these things are really not gonna like change sales in any way, and how successful your book will be. There are like there is nothing that we can do as authors that is as powerful as, the publishing, the big publishing marketing machine or whatever. And so I guess it goes back to what you guys were saying, like, don't stress it too much. Like there's nothing, like, focus on enjoying the fact that you wrote a book that a lot of people are going to enjoy, and that, like, this thing happened. You wrote a book, you published it, and like that's so cool. And don't worry too much about sales, because there's nothing you can really do about it. So that was like, it was actually, this is our recycled advice. It's a piece of advice that was given to me, and I thought it was really good, and made me feel better.
Oh, great, thank you so much. I love that. Okay, Melanie.
So I agree with everything everyone has said. It's also important, like Pippa, yes, to sell it. Don't forget to celebrate those moments, embracing the joy. And Angelina, like the not like letting the comparisons get in the way of embracing what your success is. And Allie, I know you worked in marketing and publishing, so I know that you're aware of some of those other pieces and how it's out of your control. But I think it's a good reminder. But I would say for me, and I think it's, again, all of this great advice you've just been given, it kind of proves what I'm going to say, is find your island, find your group of people that you can go to. They will celebrate with you. They will commiserate with you. They will be the ones to tell you, bitch, please. They will be the ones to kind of, pull you back from the ledge, but also push you when you need to be pushed. If you can find that group, that you trust and that you can kind of, go be on this journey with, and they could be at different places than you, but still be able to embrace what you're doing and offer helpful things. And I think you probably already have this, but, embrace it and don't be afraid to tap it when you need it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's great. I love that. Yeah. And I mean, I think this is something we all can relate to, because writing really is so singular. Like it's you and your computer or your notebook, and it's just you. And then especially when you go into traditional publishing, then there's this team of people that are also kind of touching your book as well, and they all have different parts of it. So, and I think it is really important to have kind of that outlet of authors. And I think it's really great to have people at different stages that you can reach out to, which I'm really lucky I do. So, but yeah, I love that advice, and I hope everyone in the chat is getting something out of it too. So yeah. All right.
I'm next, and my first question is going to be for Danielle. And so what we're talking about what we're trying to focus on is the fact that all four of us who released a book in this summer, we all are at different stages, pretty radically different stages in our career. So we really want to talk about, we're all debuting a book. What does debuting a book look at from a debut, from a fourth book new series, from a bunch of novellas and a second book, from a transition from very, very successful indie career to now going into having a trad publisher, so that's what we're talking about, kind of looking at. And so it's kind of addressing all of that from different angles. And so with Danielle, we have been looking forward to this debut book for like ever. I feel like we've been talking about it and anticipating it, and like this beautiful cover and this incredible concept of a book. Beautiful. And so, and really looking forward to it. And what was interesting, I feel like it was during COVID, the beginning of COVID, when I think we first started like knowing this book was going to happen. And now you've been a debut author in COVID, like this whole process of COVID pandemic, just kind of this really weird world we're in, supply chain issues. Danielle, for anyone who is watching right now who doesn't know, Danielle actually has a background in the publishing industry. She's been in PR, both on the publishing side and then more on the press side. And now she's doing event coordination for a popular bookstore in Chicago. So Danielle's a really great long view. So what I'm curious about from you do, so stop it. So what I'm curious about from Danielle's perspective is, what do you think was distinct about your debut experience with this larger perspective of the changed world of pandemic, supply chain, war, gas prices? What do you think that looked like? And what advice can you give to people who will either be debuting in the short term, long term, or people who just have to accept that debuting is not going to look like how their friends debut. The things are changing. So what would it look like for you? What advice can you give people who are debuting in this rapidly changing world?
I love this question so much, because I think the biggest thing that I've had to grapple with, and to be fair, like my book has kind of like coasted through, like I haven't had too many schedule changes. I haven't had any, like Angelina, I know you had a supply chain issue.
My book was supposed to be out and it's not out till Tuesday. That's right.
Know, like I've been really lucky that I haven't had too many hindrances. I mean, I think, but the big thing that I really have learned is that you just kind of have to go with it because, because like when I signed my contract, my book was going to come out in the summer. And then like literally a month later, they were like, we're moving it to December. And then a month later, we're moving it back to July, so I think you just kind of have to, that's my biggest advice, is just be ready for changes, be ready for things to move around. I think a lot of the people who are plugged into like kind of bookish Twitter, and especially romance Twitter, like romance editors, agents who work in romance, like everyone in publishing, from the very, a proofreader all the way up to executives, even, they are all feeling it. They're all overworked. I think most of my emails from my editor, who's amazing, her name is Liz, she's great, but she, it's like, I'm so sorry it took me so long to get back to you. And every time I'm like, Liz, like, don't apologize. I get it. Like, so I think part of that is I have the experience, like I do know like how it's so easy to like let that email just sit in your inbox for 2 weeks and you don't even look at it. But also I think going through the pandemic and just like knowing people who are, frontline workers, but also like working in a bookstore, and just like knowing that, you just never know, like Anderson's, we had an event last week 2 weeks ago, and it was through a book published by Macmillan, and Macmillan got hacked and like couldn't send books. So we were scrambling literally the night before to like, we were like, we need 74 books. 74 people are showing up at the bookstore and we don't have books. And so that, I think my thing for your debut year at this point, and I think going forward, it's probably just going to be that way for the foreseeable future, is just, you kind of have to let it happen. And hopefully, I always try. So I have this button from best friend Kelly, who makes she runs the Romancelandia sticker club, but I have this one that she made, and it says practice radical empathy. I keep it literally, I have like a corkboard right here on my desk, and I look at this every day. Cause like, even when it's like, if I'm annoyed with my kid and my husband, or if I'm annoyed with a reviewer who said they were going to review it or whatever, and it doesn't show up, I have to remember practice radical empathy, because we have no idea what people are going through. And everybody right now is going through something. So
I think that's such amazing advice, to the idea of giving people grace. And, there is this sense of like, we're women and we need to be more forceful, blah, blah, blah. But there is a specific thing happening in publishing right now that to encourage to give people grace is wonderful advice.
Totally. Good. That was a good question, Angelina.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. I just yammered on, so I'm going to ask a question so someone else can talk. Allie, you did something so cool over the last few months where you released audio novellas before, and then the ebook came later, and then you also have another book coming out, your second full-length book. So I think this is so cool because everybody here, you should know, Allie wrote The Love Hypothesis. It was like the runaway hit of the spring. Everybody should read it. Everybody has read it, I think. Yeah, exactly. But I want to know kind of like, this is such an interesting process because I know you did this, and then also Denise Williams is doing this. We should say we have the same publisher, and Denise is also part of Berkeley. But yeah, can you tell us kind of where this idea started and the whole process and stuff? Yay.
Yeah. So Denise, whom I love so much, I love all of her books and all of her novellas. She's my novella buddy. And anyway, so highly recommend all of Denise Williams' books. And her next one, Do You Take This Man? Sorry, that was like my brief. I love Denise. Let me plug Denise moment. It wasn't like our idea, to be honest, or I think both Denise and I I don't want to speak for Denise, but like for me, what happened with my novellas is that originally they were supposed to be kind of like Audible only things that we were gonna pitch to Audible, and like I started like coming up with the pitches for these novellas way before we even sold The Love Hypothesis, because I was on submission, which for those who are not like familiar with the whole publishing thing, on submission means that your agent is pitching your book to editors. And I was on submission for like months and months and months, and it didn't look like the book was gonna sell. So in that time, my agent was like, why don't you come up for like some of these novellas? I have a contact like at Audible. Why don't we try to do this? And then like somehow it ended up that Berkeley bought them instead. And it was really their idea to start with like just audio and then just ebook. And now like we just announced that they're coming out in paperback. And I'm gonna be honest, it was a little bit weird. Like it was almost like having a new release every month. And I was like, I cannot believe I'm still talking about these novellas. I bet people hate me. I'm like, I hate me. I bet they hate me. It was like truly so many feelings, but it was also fun at the same time. Like it's kind of fun to have like a book come out and like being able to celebrate. And like I got to do, for example, I like Denise and I had like something coming out at the same time, and we got to do a little event together. So I always like, release days are always like kind of a chance to either treat yourself or like do something with a friend. So it was cool just to have so many of them, so yeah, but I feel like I get a lot of questions about like how did you guys decide to do this release schedule? And I'm like, I truly don't fully understand, but I just accept what my publisher tells me. And honestly, it was fun. It was fun, I'm kind of like trying to do, I really love the advice that you gave, the whole practice radical empathy and just generally go with it. That's kind of what I'm trying to do, just generally go with it, and hope it works out. So
was it challenging to like write knowing that they were going to be audio first, or did you approach it any differently or anything?
I didn't know yet while I was when we had a pitch for Audible, but when the pitch was actually bought by Berkeley, we didn't really know that they were going to start with audio. I mean, maybe if I had known, I would have like tried to do things a little bit differently. And like, for example, I feel like the structure of the novellas, they kind of go back and forth in time. And I'm not sure it's the best for audio format, but it's happened. So, oh well.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
It's a common way too. I keep forgetting I'm also asking questions. I'm like, God, they're so fascinating. Yeah. That's fascinating. It's a common way to manage when you've got the back and forth in time. It's a common way to manage when you've got a shorter time to tell the story. If you want to tell a full story, but you have 40,000 words, it is a way to manage that. But then, and it's a common way in novellas, but then when you're doing it from an audio format, it's like, well, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I could see it being,
I clearly remember thinking, oh, wow, I've cracked the code of these novellas. I'm going to fit so much content by going back and forth in time. And then then the reviews are like, I don't understand what's happening. I'm like, sorry. Oh, well.
I just did a short story for a podcast, and I did the exact same thing. It was real time and then real time flashback in like 10,000 words. So God only knows what gobbledygook like ended up on the audio, but like, no, it's an interesting way to, and I wonder if that you and Denise in Berkeley is promoting, I wonder if that is a way to kind of tap in to the indie readers' desire for content through in a trad publishing way. Like, no, I find it fascinating.
I do know that they said something like that Denise and I were kind of experiments. So I think you probably are on the right track. Like, I think you're probably right.
I think it's an exciting direction to go, because when you're accustomed to publishing, there's a book coming out a year, it's exciting to think about, okay, what are the ways to do it? And especially in a format that, for me at least, it's quicker for me to write that shorter form. I do write it faster. Some people are like, no, 40,000 words takes me longer, but no. So it's exciting. I hope the experiment works. So I would love the trad industry to go that way.
Same. I hope they're happy.
Yeah, me too. Okay. I'm on top of it. Pippa, you've had this incredibly amazing career as an indie author. Pippa and I were in the Washington Romance Writers together, and then she moves away, and then there's suddenly, and she had a different pen name, and then suddenly there's this Pippa Grant who's all over the place, and a mutual friend I knew was working with her, and then all of a sudden it's her, and I was like, oh my God, like this amazing blowout career, which is so exciting. Well, then your book in March, is that correct? Your book in March and the book that's out now, those are both Montlake books?
Nope, just the one that's out now. The one in March was an indie book, and the one that just came out 10 days ago.
And there's two Montlake books coming out. There's this one and another one, correct? Okay.
Yes, this one and one in December.
The one coming out now and the one in December. There are two Montlake books. The cover I showed you previously, which is now gone. So if you could talk a little bit about why you decided to release these two books. I mean, again, phenomenally successful indie career. Why did you decide to sign up with a trad publisher? Why did you decide to release with a trad publisher? And then what have been some of the differences and changes and pros and cons, only if you want to talk about that, but what have been some of the,
Yeah, no, it's been a really, really great experience. When they approached me, I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about going trad, but then, I've been all in Kindle Unlimited since the beginning of Pippa Grant, because I was actually very burnt out when I launched my Pippa Grant pen name, and the idea of balancing all of the various vendors was just too much for me to handle at the time. And it was an experiment. I had no idea it was going to do this and how it has. So when Montlake approached me, I was like, oh, well, this sounds interesting and fun and different. And the editor I spoke to, she said the magic words. She was like, I want you to do the Pippa thing, but go off trope a little. And I was like, oh, and my brain just lit up. And I'm always I'm such a forward thinker. I am such a forward thinker and such a, what will this do for my career long term? Like not what is it going to do for me today, but what is it going to do long term? And sometimes you don't know until you try it. But I knew that I like to grow. I always like to learn. I don't want to ever rest on my laurels and be like, oh, well, you know what? I hit number one, I'm good enough. Like, it's just coasting from, no, never. That's not in my personality to do that. Like, some people can, and that's great for them, but I am not one of them. So I was like, I would love to work with a traditional publisher. I would love to see what it looks like when they take over the marketing. I would love to work with a different editor and see what I can learn from them and how to grow as a writer. Montlake was a good strategic decision just because I am all in Kindle Unlimited, and they put all their books in Kindle Unlimited, being an Amazon imprint. And so it just made a lot of sense. And it's been a phenomenal experience. I've had so much support from their editorial staff and their author support staff every step of the way. And it's just been really great. I'm going to keep indie publishing because I love it. But I'm so glad I did it. I'm hoping I get to do more.
What do you think now? she did a talk when she was with Washington Romance Writers. She did a talk about, I think it was some sales, like Amazon sales, something. And it was one of
like
those
Facebook ads. I think it was Facebook ads. Maybe Facebook ads.
And it was one of those talks. I was like, oh my God, that's such good information. And I will never do any of it. I'm totally overwhelmed and terrified. You can tell you were like, oh, wow, like this is empowering. Is there, that you know both worlds, is there like a personality type that you think you should go to ending? Like, this is where you should put your energy.
This is such a fascinating question to me because I'm literally at Becca Syme's Strengths Con this weekend. If you follow the Write Better Faster and the Better Faster Academy, like we literally sat through a workshop this afternoon on what makes an author go like wide versus KU and like traditional versus indie. So just like this afternoon, I do think there are some things in your personality that will like lead you one way or another. For me, it was sheer stubbornness. I mean, I was querying traditional agents in 2012 with a quirky rom-com, and they were like, we love this, but we can't sell it because it's not as dark as 50 Shades. It's not as sexy as 50 Shades, you know? And at that point I was like, well, if you love it, then it's good enough. And well, fine, I'm just going to do this all on my own. Like, there was some stubbornness, and my first pen name didn't do what I wanted it to do. But like, I think that some people really need the structure of having someone else take the lead. I've gotten to a point where I've hired other people to manage a lot of the things that I do because I've realized it's just not what moves me most, and I need to put my time toward writing. But yeah, definitely. I mean, like, if you love the thrill of getting up and being like, I'm totally in charge, this is all on me, I'm going, like, go indie, you know? And there's so many paths. You can go into KU, you can go not into KU, you can like just go on Apple if you want to. But if you've got a really great publisher and you've got good support and you're comfortable there and you work well on their deadlines, like both options are so totally viable. Yeah. Like, everybody's career is so totally different. It's like, pick the path that feels right to you. Like, don't go on somebody else's path. Like, that's not going to make you happy. It might like make really you can't.
At the end of the day, like, you can't, even if you want.
And I think you can emulate someone else's success to a degree, but I think that you're happier when you make your success on your own based on embracing who you are and running with it. Like, I believe that to the pit of my soul. Like, everything started taking off for me when I let go of everyone else's expectations and I found where I fit in the market, and everything was just magic for me after that. But like, Becca Syme just this afternoon, she's like, some people need to write to market and some people need to not, you know? So just go do what makes you happy and where you fit, and don't apologize for it, because we apologize way too much. But yeah, go where you feel right. And it's okay to pivot. I am a master pivoter. That's like one of my top strengths. I pivot a lot.
I think it's okay to pivot is you've said so many things that I'm like, okay, we should use that for a quote. Okay, we should use that for the Boozy book from our guest quote.
I talk too fast.
Will be like two Pippa pages.
Yeah. And like the Facebook ads, I used to love to do the Facebook ads, and now I pay someone to do them for me because there's just so much to manage that I feel like my time and focus, and I've got a family, and we just moved again, you know, like my focus really needs to be on the writing, because that's the only thing that only I can do. Everything else can be farmed out.
That's fabulous. Thank you. That's incredible.
Yeah. We have a lot of Pippa stands here in the chat this evening.
Yay!
Right now about talking about the various books, and we have Alina says, I'm pretty sure Phoebe and Teague are my second favorites after Felicity and Aries.
Nobody ever beats Felicity and Aries fully. When you make a 6'9" grunting hockey player who doesn't use his words and give him a ventriloquist as a heroine, it is very hard to top that. Yes, awesome. I write rom-coms.
And I just love it's so fascinating how you said, you know, you were writing these rom-coms 10 years ago and everyone was like, no, we want blah, 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 blah. And that just, the market is so fluid. And as Angelina said, it's changing faster than ever. So writing what you love, you can't go wrong. So
yes. There is a book for every reader and a reader for every book.
Another quote,
Angelina.
Okay, so now after Angelina asked like those amazing questions, now I'm going to ask Angelina a question. First of all, you know I'm your biggest fan. And I've been screaming about After Hours on Milagro Street since I read it like 2 or 3 months ago. Honestly, I've been like, this book. This is the start of your like second series. You know, you had your debut series and now you are moving into this new series. And it's one that is so close to your home and to your heart. And I want to know, were you worried about including so many details that are really personal to you in this book?
You know, this, I'd had this idea, and it was one of the situations that I needed to pitch next series. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, I had done something with my first series, which was really put my flag in the sand about what I wanted to say. I wanted to talk about strong women, and I wanted to talk about these women first books where they were really declaring themselves, declaring the power. And so they were books that got bad, would engender negative, angry reviews. And so a lot of like exposing myself and what was important to me, I did in the first series. And I, for good or for ill, I kind of established that was what I was going to do. And so in terms of writing something that was a lot more personal, it was like, look, I've already taken the punches once already, and it's valuable to me that regardless of what these sales are, that's my real name. I don't have a pen name on these books, and it's what my legacy is. It's what I've left with. And writing's the only thing I've ever been good at. And so I want it to mean something. I want it to have the tiniest bit of impact, even if it's just me saying, this is what's important to me. And so when I had to pitch this next idea, I kept saying, I wish I had a different idea. I wish I had a different idea other than writing about Mexicans Americans in Southeast Kansas. And the idea in Trump's America and what was happening, and the fact that a man could say those dirty Mexicans and he wasn't immediately extinguished as a possible president to our country, that we lived in that kind of place, that for me to say, look, people of color, we have been here, we're gonna be here, and the country benefits from us being here. And from my story about being a third generation middle American and growing up knowing that our piñatas at birthday parties and tortillas at Sunday dinners were different, but it, to me, fascinating and interesting. And it made me feel special, not lesser. It made me feel special. So I wanted to talk about that. And it was during the election. The fact that I was pitching this idea during the last election was like, I have to write this. It's meaningful. And so in the process of writing it, no one could read this book and think it's a biography of my family. And quite honestly, my grandmother, I have a grandmother in this book who is very close to my own grandmother. Her name is Loretta. The name of the bar is Loretta's. My actual grandmother was the top drug and alcohol counselor in my county. So there's that. But my grandmother was not a teetotaler, and she didn't expect people. She didn't think alcohol was evil. I merged what was important to me and what I love talking about. And I have adult pleasure and alcohol in my books. And I merged what was important to me to what I wanted to talk about holistically about family. And so you can't open this book and look at it as a biography. There's a couple of scenes of things I've actually experienced in my life, but I never intended it to be a biography. I've been very honest with my family. Look, it's high heat. They have sex in the first chapter. But I think you're going to recognize the grandma's house, and you're going to recognize Sunday dinner, and but it's not us. It's in no way us. And so I think just setting the tone for my family was more important than anything else. Other than that, I'm accustomed to writing things that's important to me and people actively not liking it. So I'm just practicing what I already did already.
Awesome. What are you the most excited? Okay, let me back up, because one of my favorite parts of your book is how much I learned about Oklahoma, and I had no idea of so much of what you talked about. So what are you the most excited about for readers to discover or learn about from Milagro Street?
I think that holistic, this idea of who we are as Americans. Who are we? What do we look like? And what do we have to say? And it's different. The idea of taking a small town book Reese Ryan does great small town books. Naima Simone. So there are already authors of color, Synethia Williams. There's another one who are great authors of colors who are already writing characters of color in small towns. We are turning small town books, this idea of America. We already have been turning away from like the Vermont bakery, which is fine, like whatever, but like we're already kind of colorifying our books to the reality of the world we actually live in. And so I'm no way a pioneer in this, but this idea of like taking an escapist, joyful, sexy novel, doing all the things that we want a romance novel to do, and in the process of just enjoying a good book, altering the idea of what middle America is, altering the idea of what innate America is, being able to do that in more of a, I don't know, quiet way, you know, or a way that feels like all of the things about a romance novel, those are important to me. And I don't ever want to, you know, not important to me. Like the only reason I want to pick up a romance novel is to be swept away in it. So I wanted to sweep away. And in that process, also just maybe inject a little bit into like the American stream about what we are and what's important about who we are. Different than, I mean, and again, it's always been the reality we see, but the media we ingest is so uncolorized, for lack of a better word.
Right.
The media ingest we just does not reflect the reality of the world we live in. So it's a book, all escapism, all the joy, all the sex that I've always loved to do with a little bit more of who we actually are as people.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, whatever.
No, I 100% agree, because I can't remember who, I was on a podcast and I'm like blanking on which one, but they were like, what are you looking forward to? And it was more like in the broader sense. And I said, I was like, I love the small, like showing small towns how they are actually populated. Yeah. And I mentioned quite a few. I mentioned you, of course, but I also meant, you know, like Naima and Reese and like they are doing such fabulous work. And I hate to call it a trend, because I hopefully it won't be a trend for very long. It will just continue to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it just I love that we are getting like diverse small town, and they can be soft and they can have deeper issues, but I love like that the small town romance is like finally expanding. So yeah, and they can be crafting, they can have cupcake stores, but not everyone in the whole town has to be white. You know, it's okay. So yeah, I agree. Let's alter it from a trend to just what is, and that's what we're trying to do holistically in romance, from what's trending to just what is. So yes, it's exciting. It's all very exciting. We're all like doing our summer releases and we're super, super into it. And it's just really, really awesome. Every book release is exciting, whether it's your first, fourth, a new format, or your 50 millionth, 20 billion, I don't know how many Pippin books have, but there's a lot.
It's like 35.
Like, calm down. It's just 35.
It's like 35.
A lot of books. What has been one event, situation, or thing you've learned that you've most enjoyed about this particular book release? If they're all different, what has been one just, bright moment, one thing you've learned, just something specific from this particular book release? Danielle, I'll start with you.
Okay, mine is great. I'm going to hold up my cover again, because this cover was like all anyone could talk about. Like when we did the reveal, which was back in December, everyone was like freaking out. And so, I mean, me included, even though I had seen it, like, but I was like, dying basically. I was like the skull face. But anyway, I've been so lucky that people have cosplayed my cover. People cosplayed my cover before they even read the book. And so the first one who I saw it's in a bookstagrammer called Capri's Book Island. And I'll put it in the chat. I'll find it. Everyone else is talking, but it was like, oh, you are the cover. Like it was down to like the hair and the bandana. It was amazing. I like was on the floor. I was literally on the floor. I like sat down. But then a few months, and I've seen it pop up on TikTok where people have like bandanas in their hair and they look like my girl. But then also former Boozy Book Broad guest and one of our faves, Denise Williams, actually on the day of release kind of cosplayed my cover too. So it's just been like, that has just been amazing. Like it's been so cool. And, this was like the thing that I was going to be like an author diva about. Like I was going to be like, I know I'm getting an illustrated cover, but it's got to be sexy. You've got to know, she's got to look cool. It was one of my, at the beginning of the publishing process, I had 2 editors and like, they were like, what if we did like a modern pinup look? And I was like, perfect. And, you know, so we did go back and forth. I did get a little nitpicky. Like I was like, we have to have an ombre. Also look that I matched my nails to like the
very
color.
nice.
Yeah.
Props to your illustrator, who is one of the best in the
Lenny Kaufman is absolutely amazing. She's the illustrator, and the Berkeley design team, they do fabulous work. But yeah, they sent me so many like ombre sunsets. And I was like, not that one, not that one. This one's close. Can you do? Yeah, I was like, it was a little obnoxious, but I was, yeah, I know it's like superficial to say like my cover, but it's been my cover.
It's a perfect cover. It's so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Ali, for you, what has been one, thing you've learned, one great moment of this? It's kind of like a summer of book releases for you, but what has been one great moment or something you've learned?
So until last week, so I went to Brazil. Basically, my book was translated in Portuguese in Brazil, and the editor there invited me to the Biennale, which was this fantastic book festival that happens in São Paulo every 2 years, and then we flew to Curitiba and then to Rio, and I did signings. Like this had never happened to me. Like I had never been in South America, and it was amazing. Like it was the best moment of my life. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like I just got to meet so many people. I got to travel. Like I cannot even start about the food in Brazil. Like it's literally the best food that I've ever had in my life. I ate so much.
Italy, so that's saying something.
I thought Italian food was good. I was wrong. And I ate so much that one day my Brazilian editor had to give me a pill because I was about to puke. Like that's how much I stuffed myself. It was so good. Everyone was so incredibly kind. Like I did all the signing and everyone wanted a hug. And I was like, I love this so much. I like hugging so much. It was amazing. Like just from the people to the place. Rio is the most beautiful city I've ever seen. It has mountains and the sea, there's the bay, and the architecture is so beautiful. And I'm like, this is because I wrote a book and this, Brazilian publisher happened to buy it. And then they invited me here because whatever. I was just so happy. And I don't know, that was amazing. I never would have thought that something like that would happen to me. And now I'm literally planning another trip to Brazil with my husband because I just want him to I want him to experience the amazingness of that country. And so, yeah, that's it. That must be it.
I love that. I love that you were and I wrote this book and it is this amazing thing. You write zeros, you type zeros and ones on it, and then it turns into a thing, and then stuff happens. It's
and then the next thing you're eating brigadeiros, and they're the most delicious thing you've ever had. It's amazing.
You're just counting your entire country's food. It's fine. I love that story.
It's not that my country's food is not good. It's that just Brazil is that much.
It's that good. That's good to know. We're all planning a trip. That's lovely. Pippa, what's one thing you've learned or one thing you've enjoyed? Just in the summer of book because you had one in March too. Yeah.
I did. I had one in March. I usually release 4 times a year, so that's not unusual. But I swore I wasn't going to talk about this, but it's so fitting. It's the perfect question for it. My hero's daughter is a member of the LGBTQIA+ community, and the responses from readers who are also parents of children in the LGBTQ+ community, just knowing that they have said, I feel seen. That to me, I'm one parent says that to me and the whole book launch is worth it. I don't care if that's the only person who buys the book. That's been really great.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. That's really wonderful. I'm glad you cry as much as I do.
Oh my gosh, I'm so emotional tonight. All of this is amazing.
It's amazing. And it's amazing. Yeah. And that when you can have people feel seen that way, it's an incredible thing. And it's a service that we weren't always able to provide as writers, and now we can, you know?
Yeah, it's so powerful. It's so powerful to just feel the connections and to make other people feel like you were talking about pulling like BIPOC community in and making it wider and seen. And like, as a white woman, that's not my place to write in my particular place, just my background. But if I can write a more diverse world, whether it's people of color, whether it's people of different sexual orientations or gender identities, like then in my secondary cast, I will do that every day because I want it to be a bright, beautiful, vibrant world. So I want to write that world.
People who are marginalized there's a lot of marginalization. There's a lot of marginalization. There's a lot of help that's needed, and there's a lot of awareness that's needed. So I mean, there's plenty.
If I can do it in subtle ways with secondary characters and just normalize color in the world and diversity in the world, that's where I'm going to go.
There's so much adversity against people who are marginalized that it's like, any help, any help can be. And mine is similar. I write about traqueros, who were Mexican railroad workers who built the bulk of the railroad through the Midwest. And this idea that when you think of railroad, you don't think Mexicans. It's not what you put together. And I have a character say, you know, we built the backbone of this part of the country, and yet we don't get that recognition, that history, this idea that we were part of that, we don't get that recognition. And in their desire to assimilate, we've allowed them to also forget how important we are here. And so
I wouldn't be there without it.
Exactly. I did. So I did a TikTok about this, about traqueros. And I got all these comments from people saying, my grandfather was a traquero. My family is here from traqueros too, and nobody knows this story. Or even in my 60-second TikTok, what I talked about, they were like, I knew traqueros, I didn't know this, or I didn't know that, or I didn't know this. And it's like this opportunity to, you know, connect these people who felt, you know, maybe disconnected or who didn't know that there's this larger story there. Is just a really wild thing to be able to do, especially when they bang in the first chapter. Like, you can do all of that. You know, romance allows for that. Like, I can bang in the first chapter and give like a fun history lesson, you know, and bang and, you know, support marginalized people. And so,
Do you have a favorite moment, Angelina?
That was it. Being able to talk about traqueros. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That was, I mean, that TikTok was amazing. And to see other people say, my grandpa too. That's my family,
so cool. Yeah, it's incredible.
All right, well, that brings us out of the full bottle. We are at 8:00 though. So are we okay to stay a few more minutes? Do we have anyone that has to hop? Okay, we can stay for a few more minutes. All right, I want to make sure, respect everyone's time. We have some really great comments in the chat. So I want to give some shout outs here to some of the comments that we've had. First of all, Danielle's mom had to point out that Danielle Smirk has made an appearance.
Wait, I'm gonna look at it. Can I like?
I love that. I love it so much. Also, we have Erin here, who is a marketing genius, which I need to take some notes. So Erin is suggesting that we need to start putting QR codes on the backs of books that will be a link that takes readers to videos of authors talking about their books. And the inspiration behind this is you, Angelina, because people were clicking to buy your book by listening to your passionate discussion of your story.
Yeah.
So I think that's genius, Erin. So you're hired.
Yeah.
I think editor Jess is listening. Angelina, we should tell her to write this down.
Yeah, Jess, tell everybody to do this. Great idea.
And also we have people so we're talking a lot about diversity and how it's being seen in these stories, and body positivity is definitely one as well, Angelina, that you embrace. That's fantastic that people are noticing. And Jessica has a suggestion for a bumper sticker: romance, bang, and support marginalized people. I am a multitasking maven, Jessica, so props.
Yeah.
So I mean, we had lots of fun questions, but I feel like I want to end with this one, and maybe a little bit serious, but also important. So we are living in interesting times, which frankly sucks. So I mean, beyond just, I mean, you take your pick of the plethora of fires that we are currently burning in. I live very close to Highland Park. I was born in the hospital in Highland Park, which is where the mass shooting on July 4th took place. My daughter actually has performed in that parade when she was younger. So, I mean, it's just the one of many, many examples of tragedies that we are enduring and dealing with. And yet here we are trying to write funny, happy, wonderful stories. And it can be incredibly difficult to get into the right headspace to do that. And it can feel useless and pointless and all kinds of other things. So I wanted to end with this. Has there been a moment for you where, you have been reminded that what you do is important, that, someone, whatever the case may be, a reader has reached out, and you mentioned, Pippa, where you've had parents of LGBTQ plus, as kids say this, I feel seen, and Angelina talking about, but in general, like just having the escape, having the funny, having the place to laugh, that has kind of renewed your sense of purpose. So if you have an example of that, I would love to hear it. And I will start with you, Allie.
I mean, this is, I promise sometimes I talk about things that are not me having gone to Brazil, but like, it's so
we need Brazil stories. That's a phenomenal story.
That's like, amazing.
If
that's
you
the dream.
Don't ever not tell that story. It's the best story.
I just like loved it so much. But like when I was there, I love hearing things like, there is this specific part, like sometimes, there are people who say, oh, there is an ace character in your book and it spoke to me, or I'm a woman in science and it's nice like that I'm also a woman in science, or I'm also a woman in academia and that spoke to me. But really, like, to me, the best thing to hear is I was having a bad day, or like I was struggling on the day that I picked up your book and then it made me laugh. Like that is literally the best thing. Like, I know it's such low stakes, but it just, I don't know. I just the idea that I'm giving someone 2 hours of happiness or even like just mindlessness. I love that. Like just there is, because like you said, it's such a hard time that we're all having for so many reasons. So I just feel like it's just such a luxury to have like just some quiet and some happiness, and I don't know, it just makes me really, really happy. I also, like, this is kind of unrelated and it's not my story, but I was on at Comic-Con on this panel today, and Adriana Herrera, who writes these amazing books, was on the panel. And at the end of the panel, someone stood up and they were telling her, she was like also an Afro-Latina woman, and she was telling her, I had never read a historical romance that had someone who looked like me. And she was crying. Adriana started crying. I started tearing up. Like, it was just like this beautiful, beautiful moment. And like, I had chills. Like, it was just like the power of having like this thing that Adriana did, of making someone feel seen, giving someone the representation that she hadn't had up until that moment. I was just like, I was feeling...
now. That is one of my favorite books of the year. So if you don't know what we're talking about, it's A Caribbean Heiress in Paris. Yes. It is phenomenal. The audiobook, I highly recommend. And it is doing like what Angelina was talking about with small town romances. It is doing that for historicals, and it is amazing. So that, thank you for sharing that story, because that
it's a fantastic book. 100% highly recommend. Like,
it's another book that would get that bumper sticker because they bang and they also support marginalized people, and it does it so well.
It's a very political book too, in the sense that like they talk about like, and the hero is Scottish. They talk about the privilege he has,
and it flows, and it never is soapboxy. It is fantastic. Yeah, highly recommend that one as well. 100%. So thank you for sharing all of that. And it is just those, like, I mean, I know there's the big moments, but it is those little moments of the day-to-day people that are like, this just got me through through my day. Pippa, how about you?
Every day when I sit down to write and I know the world is a dumpster fire, I like put on this invisible cape that is like, I am saving people's sanity. No, it's like people need that downtime. You can't live in that fire hose of negativity. And I've lived there. I hate living there. It's not comfortable. It is reality. But I'm also like, we cannot make it better if we are just wallowing in it. And so it's things like the readers at a signing who will hug you and say like, I read your books to get through cancer treatments, or the email and say like the other things like, I was reading your book as I was sitting by my dying parents' bedside, you know, and you're like, that is, shoot. Like, that is so, like, I am so passionate about this. I'm like, I don't feel guilt for writing happy books in sad times because they are so necessary for people's mental health. They're so necessary. People need that escape. I need that escape. So I know if I can give it to other people, like that's literally my mission, is to spread the joy, because I think if we were happier people, we would have less dumpster fire. So this is like my vision of the future, is that we all read happy books, whatever makes us happy. Because I know like my version of what a happy book is not going to be somebody else's version of like what makes me happy reading a book. But if we read what makes us happy and gives us joy, and we consume what makes us happy instead of consuming all the negativity, because I think the negativity has been there for a long time. We just see it so much more now because of the internet and 24/7 news. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, we are necessary. We are the superheroes. We are spreading like the escape from the real world and reminding people of what could be.
Could I have my cape before I start to write?
I had no idea I was such a like woo person until like the last couple of years, and I'm like, we are all connected and we all need to be happy together, and then we will save the world.
Embrace it. Love it. I
mean, romance will save the world. Let's face it.
Yeah. It will.
And Delina,
No, love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, I obviously have high aspirations for, you know, the ability to affect change, but mostly because I've learned that it can. And that, you know, I learned early on, I've told the story before, but I had just moved to San Francisco. I was dealing with mean girls at a new school, and I would get a romance novel and I would read it for 7 hours. And it was the only thing that would allow my brain to let go of this stress that I couldn't control. I couldn't change. I just needed to wait it out. And so I learned early on that literally the mental health aspects of joy and escapism connected to romance novels. And so I valued it very, very early and embraced it as a genre because of that ability to let it get you out of your brain. That being said, though, when I moved to Houston, I quickly gave my book to a neighbor who lived down the street. And he read it, and he was about to approach 50, and he had been in he'd been married, and he'd been out of his marriage for a while, but he'd been married, and he said he read my debut novel, Lush Money, and it gave him the best sex life of his life for the next 3 months. Like, it inspired. He's gay. He's, you know, he's not straight, and it's a heterosexual couple, and Lush Money, he's gay, but he was like, it was so fulfilling, and he'd never read a romance novel before, and he was like, it was so like what relationship could be, and what like sexual heat could be, and he had like the best sex of his life for the next 3 months.
Best
and I was like,
compliment ever.
Best
I love this for you.
Yes.
Oh my God, getting him out of his house and getting him like, oh my God.
Turn it into a blurb.
Well, give her a superhero.
You need to ask him to write me a review. Yeah, I definitely do.
You need the case that says sexual superhero. That's appropriate.
We have like neighborhood gatherings, and like, you know, whenever it's like adults at a cocktail party, he tells everyone this, like, best sex of my life. He tells people all the time, it's my best. I tell him, like, you're my best hype person, like best.
Fantastic. All right, Danielle, so you're a debut, so I know your experiences might not be as extensive yet, but I feel like even in the time that this book has been out and the time that we've been building up to this book coming out, I think you've touched a lot of people's lives, obviously through the cosplay. They've clearly connected to your character. You've clearly inspired. And I think that's when you see those kinds of things happening, those organic kinds of things happening, you know you've tapped into something that people are connecting to. So what about you?
It's especially relevant, I think, particularly, this is the end of my debut week. And Before we were recording, I was telling everyone, or before we were live, I should say, I was telling everyone I went to Love Sweet Arrow on Wednesday, and I was, I went and I signed the stock that they had, and then so they took the stock up to the register right before they put it out on a table and on a shelf. And a woman came in. She had ordered a book. It had arrived. She's like, "I'm here to pick up my book," and she's like, "But I'm gonna look around." And I was like, I saw her like look at the stack of books, and I was like, "Oh, it's my book," and she's looking at it. It's so cool. But then Marissa and Roseanne, the owners of Love Sweet Arrow, they were amazing, and they were like, "Oh, you're looking at this book, like this is the author," like, and I was like standing like sheepishly in the background, being a weirdo, and she was like, "Oh, this looks really good," and she was like, "Tell me about it," and then she bought it like while I was in the store, and so it was just so cool to like see someone buy my book. And and she was like, and I got, I personalized it. It was really, really fun. So that's just like a fun, like very specific story. But I will say the reactions that I have seen come through specifically from Black women who are picking up this book and saying, especially, I think, and we've all said this, but like when they can say like, I feel seen, like someone who looks like me is the love interest in the book, and I've talked about this quite a bit, but from the start, like my goal with this character, even before I knew she was a photographer, before I knew who her hero was, I was like, she is going to think she's amazing the whole time. Like, she's never going to doubt that she's good at her job. She's never going to doubt that she's beautiful. She's nervous about modeling lingerie, but like, so is everyone. But I knew, but she was going to be confident, and she was going to have things to work through. And I feel like so far that has really resonated with readers, and I love that. That was my goal, and people are really doing that. Erin in the chat just said it would have been.
I'm laughing at Erin's comment.
If she put it back after she was introduced to
fabulous group chat tonight. You all need to come back.
You guys are awesome.
Seriously, we are going to wrap up pretty soon here, but I want to say, so Susan has said, I would not have made it through the past couple of years without Romancelandia. So yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm writing, but I obviously also am consuming and reading, and that keeps me going. I'm refilling my well. So 100%. But yes, Pippa, I think a lot of these are your weirdos. So that's fantastic.
Love them.
There's some plotting going on here of a cape, but I won't give away the secrets because they think that you're not watching the chat. So they're plotting something there. I want to remind everyone one more time to please go to lovesweetarrow.com to order your books. Like Danielle said, there are signed books available from her there. Speaking of, Danielle and I both will be live in person at Love Sweet Arrow on August 5th. We will be joined by some other fabulous Chicagoland authors, including Chandra Bloomberg, who also writes great people of color stories in small towns. And some other great authors as well that you can check out on the lovesweetarrow.com website. You can check out the August 5th event for more information. If you live anywhere in the Chicagoland area, we hope to see you there. Thank you so much to all of our guests tonight, to Pippa and to Allie for joining us for the chat. Big congratulations to my fellow bras, Angelina and Danielle, on their books out this summer. Thank you so much to all of our readers who have joined us tonight for the chat. You've kept it really fun. And thank you to Love Sweet Arrow for hosting us. And we'll see you later. We'll see you in September.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.